This is Katrin with Disability Rights New York. Welcome to our podcast, Empire State of Rights, closed captioned. We are here to bring you information on the most relevant topics regarding disability rights and advocacy. Today, we welcome Helen Hellmuth, Senior PAVA Advocate here at DRNY. We're going to discuss how to be an informed voter, what media literacy is, and we'll provide some tips and resources. Helen, thank you so much for joining us today.
As always, thanks for having me.
So Helen, we're coming up on election time here, and something that our audience may hear about is something called media literacy. Let's talk about that and why it's so important for our voters to be informed.
Yeah, so media literacy is the practice of analyzing the media that we consume and using critical thinking techniques to consider the biases in the information that we consume. Media can be anything like news, commercials, and social media. And practicing media literacy means being mindful of things like clickbait headlines that provoke intense feelings and emotions. Media literacy is important when it comes to being an informed voter because voters should always assess the information that they hear from candidates or about other candidates before forming conclusions about them. And voters should be cautious not to jump to conclusions or ideas about a candidate before doing further research from a variety of sources.
We have so many different forms of media that we're exposed to every day now. There's social media, there's news, there's radio. And so when we're talking about fact checking, Helen, and we're talking about additional resources, are there some resources out there that are good for people to go to make sure that they're checking their sources?
Yes, there's plenty of websites out there that provide nonpartisan information, fact-based about candidates and proposals that may be on the ballot. Some of these websites are vote411.org, ballotpedia.org, votesmart.org, and factcheck.org. Depending on the size of the election, you can learn where candidates are receiving donations from on these websites. And you can also look at the candidates' websites and social media pages to learn more about their stance on certain issues. And this is a great place to practice media literacy. For example, if a candidate says that they are an advocate for renewable energy, but they receive a lot of campaign donations from a large oil company, then you can use your critical thinking skills to decide if you think this candidate would truly advocate for a cleaner environment and if you find them to be truthful on the things they say they stand for.
And Helen, we'll go ahead and drop those resources in the description of the podcast. So we're talking a little bit about media literacy, but there's other ways that people can become informed as a voter. Let's talk about some of those other ways.
Yeah, so the first step that voters should take is to request a sample ballot from their county board of elections office. Most counties have the sample ballots available on their websites. However, you can always contact your county board to request a sample ballot. And a sample ballot is essentially a practice ballot and will show you all the races and candidates' name that you will be voting on election day.
And so if there's a particular subject or area of interest you have, you'll be able to see those in how the actual ballot will look on election day. Is that correct?
Yes, we'll call it a draft ballot where it's for you to practice on. You can see what the ballot will look like and you'll be able to see the candidates who are running. So all those things we just talked about, vote411.org, ballotpedia.org, looking at the candidate's website, you'll know who's going to be on the ballot and who you need to research before election day once you have your sample ballot.
And that's a great way of finding out before you get there on election day, if there are additions to the ballot, like in New York State, we have some proposals, statewide proposals this year, and it gives everyone the opportunity to go ahead and find out what's going to be on that ballot. And you're not standing there in the voting booth thinking, oh, I'm not sure what this is, and you have the time to do it beforehand. So that's really important for us to know. Let's talk about something else that voters should learn about before they do go cast their vote.
One thing that I always say to voters or people who are going to vote is that voting is not a pop quiz. Voters should study and decide before they get to the polls how they're going to vote. So the League of Women Voters often will have educational resources, trainings, and candidate forums where voters can prepare for Election Day. You can find your local League of Women Voters branch by visiting their website at lwvny.org. DRNY also will occasionally host candidate forums where we specifically focus on disability-related issues. Western New York Independent Living Center also hosts candidate forums every election. So really tapping into your local resources and figuring out the groups who are hosting these events to learn more about candidates is another great way to stay informed. And I'll also add, reach out to the candidates. They are running for public office. So if you have any questions about how they're going to serve you as a voter, their website will have a contact form. Their social media will have contact information. Don't be afraid to reach out.
Those are really great ideas. And I really like the analogy that voting is not a pop quiz. It's best to study and prepare. And we talked a little bit about the 2021 statewide ballot proposals. If you can just talk about them a little bit in general terms so that our audience is aware of what we're talking about.
Yes, there are at least five ballot proposals that will be on your ballot throughout New York State. Depending on where you live, there may be more, but everyone will be voting on at least five. And they have to do with a variety of things. One has to do with redistricting. One has to do with the right to clean air and water. There's a couple about expanding voting access, so making no excuse absentee ballot permanent and eliminating the 10-day voter registration requirement. And then there's a fifth one that is New York City specific, but because it's in the state constitution, everyone votes on it. And DRNY, we collaborated with the League of Women Voters to talk over each of those ballot proposals in full, where we discuss what each proposal means, the pros and cons to each. Of course, it's all nonpartisan. And if you go to DRNY's YouTube channel, you will find a link to that video, and it has ASL interpreting and closed captioning. So it's a great resource to learn more about these proposals.
That's right. DRNY has had a couple of other podcasts, as well as some other resources we have from our voting access program. Helen, are there other points or tips you want to talk to us about, let our audience know about before Election Day?
Just reiterating that voting is not a pop quiz. And as Justin Dart famously said, vote as if your life depends on it, because it does. And if your life depends on it, you're going to research ahead of time and you're going to know how you want to vote and make an informed decision that's best for you. That's another important thing to hit on, is the vote is sacred and it is your vote. You do not need to listen to what your parents or teachers may say. There's no need to be influenced by anyone in how you want to vote. It is your choice, and you don't need to share with anyone if you don't want to tell anyone how you're voting. The flip side of that is, if you feel intimidated researching candidates and there's someone that you trust, reach out to them and ask them to help you research. You don't have to do this alone if you don't want to, but also if you would rather keep it private, that's your choice. You're allowed to do that as well.
Helen, thank you so much for your time today. We look forward to the elections and to speaking with you again.
Thanks so much.
The resources mentioned in today's episode, as well as important dates for the upcoming election, will be listed in the description of this podcast.
Empire State of Rights Closed Captioned has been brought to you by Disability Rights New York, your source for disability rights and advocacy. If you enjoyed our program, make sure to subscribe, like, and share this post. If there is a subject you would like us to discuss, please email podcast@drny.org or comment below. Tune in next Wednesday, where we'll bring you more information on disability rights in the state of New York. The closed captioned and ASL version of this podcast is available on our YouTube channel. To listen to more Empire State of Rights closed captioned, follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.